seconds. Good evening and welcome to the November 9th, 2023 Planning Commission meeting of the City of Walnut Creek. I will be standing in for our chair, but our first item of business is our roll call. So, Mr. Secretary, please take the roll.
Commissioner Reiser.
Here.
Commissioner Nating is absent. Commissioner Lezak.
I'm here.
Commissioner Pickett.
Here.
Commissioner Anderson.
Here.
Vice Chair Strongman.
Here.
And Chair Ward is absent.
Thank you. We do have one item on number 2 of the consent calendar, which is the calendar. Does anybody have any questions about that or have a motion to accept the consent calendar?
Move to approve the consent calendar. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Could we have another roll call, please?
I'm sorry, the motion was by Commissioner Reiser and the second was by Commissioner Anderson. Great, thank you. Commissioner Reiser.
Yes.
Commissioner Nating is absent. Commissioner Lezak.
Yes.
Commissioner Pickett.
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson.
Yes.
Vice Chair Strongman.
Yes.
And Chair Ward is absent.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 3, public comments. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comments that are not on any item that's not on the agenda. Under the Brown Act, the Commissioner cannot act on items raised during this public communications, but they may respond briefly to statements made for the questions posed and request clarification or refer to the items. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to speak on something that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, do we still have Zoom, or is that?
We do not.
Okay, thank you. Therefore, public comments are now closed. And we'll go on to the next item, which is the public hearings. For this tonight, it's the Trinity Center Evening Winter Shelter Program Conditions Use Permit. Application Y23077.
Good evening, Commissioners. Brittany Lenore, Associate Planner with the Community Development Department. So we are here tonight to consider the proposed CUP for Trinity Center temporary evening program that will operate at the Armory at 1800 Carmel Drive. So before getting into the presentation, I want to mention that we did receive one public comment, and that was from a neighbor of the Armory who voiced their support for the project. So on the right, you'll see an aerial view of the site where the overnight services will take place. The Armory is surrounded by a parking lot and equipment storage at the end of Carmel Drive. The immediate context consists of Civic Park to the west, the Iron Horse Trail to the east, and apartments to the south along Carmel Drive. The site is zoned community facility, which requires a conditional use permit for housing for the homeless and emergency shelters. This year, the evening program is scheduled to run from December 11th to April 12th. As stated in the operating plan included as attachment 4 of the agenda packet, the maximum capacity is 50 participants. They must be pre-registered with Trinity Center. The evening program will run from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. There are no walk-ups allowed, so this is a closed shelter. People will not be able to show up and expect to receive housing for the night. Intake occurs at the Trinity Center, and participants will be transported to and from the Armory. No alcohol or drugs are allowed on the site, and there are no in and out privileges during the night. So there would be on-site security as well, and that will be provided by Trinity Center. In addition, National Guard personnel and Trinity Center staff will be present on site. So Trinity Center can expand on the outcomes and impacts of their program last year, but just to summarize a little bit, it did run from December 14th through April 9th. It did serve 34 individual members, and due to the cleaning requirements in the management agreement and precautions taken by Trinity Center, there were no instances of COVID-19. Also, as required by the management agreement, 2 community meetings were held to allow the public to provide comments or feedback. No community members attended, and no comments or concerns were received for the program last year. So if approved, this will be the 8th consecutive year that the temporary shelter will operate within the Armory. This year, City Council approved funding for a total amount of $100,000 to cover a portion of the program's budget. Also, this year is the start of a new 3-year management agreement between the city and Trinity Center, and that, along with the license agreement with the state to use the Armory, will be executed prior to the start of the program this year. So Trinity Center has shown their commitment to this program and have returned to Planning Commission for the past 8 years to ask for conditional use permits each year. Trinity Center's operations are so closely controlled under the license agreement and the management agreement that the processing of the annual CUP has become repetitive, costly, and time-consuming for Trinity Center as well as city staff. So as a result, staff is requesting that the Planning Commission approve a standing CUP. The standing CUP will not change the requirements for the license agreement, management agreement, or any, and will not change requirements for any annual conditions required in the use permit, but it will just now require review by the Community Development Department to confirm compliance, as opposed to having a full commission and public hearing. And there still will be an opportunity for the public to attend a community meeting if they would like, and that would be held through the Walnut Creek Homeless Task Force, and that's a requirement under the management agreement. So when it comes to the CUP, the Housing Accountability Act limits a jurisdiction's ability to deny emergency shelters unless it can make at least one of the 5 findings listed on this slide. So 4 of those findings are not applicable. The 5th finding is whether the shelter would have adverse impacts on public health or safety, and any potential effects on the park and neighboring community will be mitigated as intake will occur at the Trinity Center day program site. Security at the Armory will be provided by National Guard and by a hired security service, and the city's police department would also conduct site visits at the site. So additionally, the management agreement also requires cleaning and compliance with public health requirements, including those pertaining to COVID-19. So for those reasons, staff does not believe that any of the 5 required findings to deny the project can be made, as the emergency shelter will not have an adverse impact on public health or safety. So this project is categorically exempt from CEQA, since it's an existing facility that will be utilized as an emergency shelter. So because of all of this, staff does recommend the Planning Commission determine the project exempt from CEQA and adopt the proposed resolution to approve the standing CUP, subject to all conditions and timely filings of all necessary documents. So thank you for your time tonight. I'm available for any questions you have.
Thank you. Thank you for a great presentation. Do we have any questions of the Commission? Seeing none, thank you.
Trinity Center is also here as well.
And I believe now we will open to public comments, and the Trinity Center will be able to have 15 minutes to talk to us, hopefully brief.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Chair Strongman. Thank you, Commissioners. It's always a privilege and a pleasure to be here to talk about one of the things that we do that means so much to us, our Trinity Center Winter Evening Program, our emergency shelter program. I just want to also say my being here alone doesn't mean that I don't have complete and full support from our team and from our board, but they're off busy doing the rest of the work. We've got one person off at a fundraiser and getting ready for another fundraiser on Saturday that's going to directly impact the program. So we're all busy doing the work, getting ready to be able to shelter our most vulnerable folks during the winter months. I'm also really glad that we have city staff here, and we have enjoyed this year especially, but in years past, great support from our city staff, our elected officials, all the people who put in the hard work, and of course yourself. So thank you. It takes a village, and we have certainly benefited from this village, and we hope that our program and our members will similarly benefit again this year and in years to come. So Brittany's done a beautiful job as usual, just laying out the basics of the program. You're all familiar with it. You got tons and tons of material to read, so I won't repeat anything, but I did just want to highlight a few things that we're most proud of about this year. We have certain enhancements to the program that we're looking forward to this year as well. We have a brand new van. We did fundraising, we got a lot of community support, and now we have a brand new van that's fully wheelchair accessible in ways that our old box van wasn't available. So now we truly can serve people who are wheelchair bound, who may have needs, and get them safely back and forth to Trinity Center. Plus, knock on wood, because it's old, we still have the second van. So it's actually going to make it easier to transport larger numbers of people in one trip instead of having to go back and forth. That's one enhancement we're really looking forward to. Also, the slides talked about being from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Those are our hours at the Armory. Historically, we've opened up at Trinity Center at 5:30 to have people come in, check in, have dinner. We're adding an extra hour to that. We're going to actually be opening an hour earlier. I like to think of that as the power hour. Because that will give time for people to come, settle in, and have some time to do case management, to access our computers, to do the work that they need to do to find housing, find jobs, connect with family in a way that they may not always be able to do during the daytime hours at Trinity Center, because there's a lot of other demand for those computer resources. So that's going to be our power hour for case management, and also to bring in workshop activities, and a little bit more about that in a minute. So we're going to use that time to help strengthen the case management aspects of the program. Plus, just honestly, sometimes last year with all that rain, you'll remember all that rain, it was so hard. It literally made me cry to have people sitting outside because we didn't have our staff prepared to come in and have them sitting outside in the rain. It was just awful. So we don't have to do that this year. We're going to have staff coming in early so that we'll have a transition, a changeover from our day program to our evening program, but we won't have to leave our vulnerable folks out in the cold and the dark and the rain. So, yay. And finally, our workforce development program, which is one of the services in our day program, we are really bringing that to bear with our evening program folks as well. People will not only have managed goal and action plans towards housing, but towards employment if they are so inclined and don't have a disability that precludes them from having work. So we're going to have case management options and access to the computers for employment development, job search, and to support opening up an hour earlier supports our members who are working. They can come in, they can relax after their day of work, they can take a shower and be ready for the evening. So adding our workforce development component and that attention is going to be an additional enhancement to the program this year. So we're hoping that that will continue to increase our successes. In the past, you saw from the slides and from the packet, our successes last year. When you look at it, it may not look super fantastic, but please do remember that of those 34 people that we housed throughout the winter, about half of them didn't finish the whole program. And a majority of them didn't finish the whole program because they came in and used the program during that really, really rainy period. There was that period of 2 to 3 weeks when it was constant rain, and we worked in partnership with the county to bring in additional people who hadn't really been connected with Trinity Center before, but who needed safe shelter during the night. So once the rains went away, so did they. So we really didn't have the traction with them to do some of the outcome-based stuff that we normally do. But people did find housing, and they're still finding housing. There were a couple of folks who got housed right out of the program. But sometimes the seeds that are planted and the work that started still takes months to blossom into people getting their actual housing. So I'm happy to report that in addition to the people who got housed right out of the program, several people have been housed since that time, since we closed the program in April. One is recently, just this week, she stopped me on the street. She's like, I got my keys today. And it was great. We were doing the happy dance. And she had been with us in our evening program. And she had been working with us and doing our workforce development program and just going through the long, arduous, sometimes disappointing process of applying for housing and getting turned down and applying again. And it all came together for her and for others. So that does happen. And finally, I just want to say with gratitude that we have members coming to us. We've had members coming to us since earlier in the fall saying, are you going to do the program? Really need the program. It's getting really hard to think about being outside in the winter. Are you going to do the program? And we've had people coming up and saying, we want to cook dinner. How can we help? We want to be part of the program. You're going to do it again this year, right? Like, yes, don't worry. So the need is still great, unfortunately. And until the day that it isn't, we'll keep trying to operate this program with your support. Of course, if you do approve the standing CUP, I won't have this wonderful chance necessarily obligatorily to come stand and brag about our great program, but I'll be more than happy to share our successes with you going forward. So thank you so much for your support in the past. We hope that we can have your support and approval again tonight, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for a great presentation. Any questions? Seeing none. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to make a public comment on this particular item? Seeing none, I will bring it back to the commission for further consideration and possibly a motion.
I'll start. When I first saw this on the agenda, my first thought was, are we doing this again? Because we seem to do it every year, and things don't really change a great deal. And I saw that it was actually asking to make it more of a, not permanent, a continuing situation where it doesn't have to come back to us every year. And I approve of that. I think that's a good idea.
Mr. Reiser.
Just a couple of quick comments. Number one, no questions or anything. Just a couple of comments. One, I think the standing CUP is a great idea because we do see the same application, and it's just a wonderful program. And secondly, I'd like to commend the folks at Trinity Center and the homeless outreach folks and the staff and the team, and the work that you guys do is just amazing. So I would like to pass along my praise and thanks for what you do. I guess with that, why don't I introduce a motion for two things. One is to waive CEQA. Is that waive the requirement for CEQA, or
Make the CEQA determination.
I'm
To
sorry.
determine that the project is exempt from CEQA.
Okay. That. A motion to waive that the project requires CEQA, and secondly to pass the standing CUP.
It would just be to adopt the resolution.
Adopt the resolution stating yes. So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Please call the roll, please.
Commissioner Reiser,
Yes.
Commissioner Nating is absent. Commissioner Lezak,
Yes.
Commissioner Pickett,
Yes.
Commissioner Anderson,
Yes.
Vice Chair Strongman,
Yes.
and Chair Ward is absent, and the motion passes.
Thank you. And best wishes to this winter.
Thank you for what you do.
Moving on to item 5, which is commission considerations. Do we have any? Seeing none. Item 6, commission member staff reports and announcements. Any staff reports?
None from staff, thank you.
Any commissioners? Other than to have a good weekend for me, for everyone. Seeing none, on item 7, adjournment. This meeting is adjourned. Do we do it?
Well done, team. Meeting for dinner.
Excellent leadership. Thank you. Excellent leadership. Thank you.